When James's grandfather died, nobody wanted to clean out the house. It wasn't grief, it was fear, though no one said that out loud. The old man had been a recluse, a religious obsessive. His home felt more like a mausoleum than a dwelling, walls yellowed with smoke and candle soot, rooms stacked with ancient radios and rotting hymnals, and an attic packed with moldy boxes and humming electronics. James hadn't planned on staying long, just enough time to collect anything of value, maybe pawn some old ham radio gear and get out. But then he found the tapes, hundreds of them piled in sagging milk crates and warped wooden drawers. Each was labeled in faded handwriting, things like The Folded Psalm, Sermon of the Crawl, Speak the Signal. Some bore only numbers. Others had no markings at all, just deep grooves in their plastic shells like claw marks. One tape stood out. It had no label, just a white sticker with red marker scrawled across it, smeared and bubbling with water damage. Public Access Gospel. He should have thrown it away. Instead, he found an old Zenith CRT in the attic, dusted it off, and slid the tape into the player. The static began immediately, grainy black and white fuzz, flickering like a dying storm. Then, the image sharpened. A pale preacher stood behind a pulpit made of bones and old wood. He wore a black cassock, too long for his body, the sleeves hanging like torn drapery. His face was the most horrifying part. Smooth, porcelain-like skin stretched across his skull, with no eyes. Just the suggestion of sockets beneath the flesh, twitching now and then as if something behind the skin wanted to blink. He smiled. Not a warm, inviting smile, but a knowing one. "Good evening, dear lamb," the preacher said. His voice hissed with static. "It's time we chew the word." Behind him sat a motionless congregation. Human silhouettes, heads bowed, hands twisted in prayer. Their bodies shook slightly, as if suppressing sobs or convulsions. A hymn began to play. It sounded like an organ, but the chords were reversed, garbled, echoing with wet, guttural tones that crawled into James's ears like insects. The preacher smiled. "Brother James, it's been a long time." James leaned closer. The voice was unmistakable. His grandfather. But not the way he remembered his voice. More vibrant, more calm. "Do you remember the lambs, son? How we sacrificed them at the altar to bring the spirit closer? Well, now, it's your turn." The screen flickered, warped. James tried to eject the tape. It wouldn't budge. The static grew louder, hungrier. That night, James dreamed of the living room filling with fog. The TV screamed in tongues, and behind the preacher, the congregation moaned, their voices weeping, choked with dust. He saw his mother in the front pew. She had died 3 years ago. Now she wore her Sunday best, her skin gray and torn, jaw clicking open with anticipation. Next to her sat his father, long dead. His cousin Matthew, who drowned in 2009. His entire family, gaunt and starving, stared at James through the screen. He woke, gasping, alone on the moldy couch, but the screen was still on. Only now. He was on it. James sat in the pew beside the preacher, smiling wide and lifeless. The real James stumbled backward. Something was wrong. Then the preacher on the screen turned his head toward him and grinned. "Come on in, Brother James. We saved you a seat." They've been fasting for years. The congregation leaned forward, their teeth long, their mouths dry, their tongues writhed. The screen split open like a wound. Hands burst through, dressed in frayed cuffs, fingers bone-thin and cold. They grabbed James, pulled him into the flickering static, feet first, ribs cracking on the frame. The last thing he saw before the TV swallowed him whole. His grandfather, clapping from the pulpit. Amen. The next morning, the tape was gone, but the screen turned on anyway. On the screen, the starving dead. His family, bloated with new meat, smiling wide with gore-stained teeth.